Hey there everyone, AJ back again for the Mighty Glue Stick channel. I make videos about Dungeons & Dragons lore full-time with a collection of hundreds of monster ecology and strategy videos on my channel. If you like what I do, please consider subscribing as I upload at least twice a week. So I got a lot of questions in that last video about the afterlife, what a petitioner is, where the different souls of various faiths and alignments go to, and it's a long time since I gave you a good overview of the Celestials, so settle back, grab a tasty beverage. We're about to get deeply nerdy as I introduce you to the concept of the afterlife. We already know the horrible fate of Jimmy the Knife from the last video, the cutthroat pirate of the Sword Coast. So we're going to take a look at the fate of his half-sister Seska, the Cleric of Bane, who grew up on the hard streets of Luskan. Her friend Tolmus, the arcane investigator from Candlekeep, their quiet companion Nornhara, the Gondite master of tools from the island of Lantern, and the local hero who roped them into this latest harebrained adventure, self-proclaimed and locally renowned superhero, the Caped Crusader Mal Valorius, Bard of the College of Valor and devotee of Tempus, proud descendant of the Netherese Arcanists from Waterdeep. Seeking the favour of a very wealthy Waterdavian patron, the team have travelled away from the Sword Coast and into the edge of the High Forest by way of Red Larch. They lawfully broke into and abandoned keep inherited by their city patron, in order to ensure it was safe for workers to come and refurbish the place. Well, things went really, really badly for the group, obviously, and within about 45 minutes the only survivor, Seska the Banite cleric, had managed to drag the body of Nornhara, the portly and tool-laden gnome, out of the stone building and clear of the tree line. He is stone-cold dead, as is the rest of the party left behind, and Seska is unclear exactly what it was that murdered them all in the first place, except it had tentacles, at least 2 fang-filled maws, and was spitting out other horrible creatures from slimy orifices, even as it attacked them. As she grabs a diamond out of her belt pouch and starts to intone the powerful spell that will resurrect her companion, raising from the dead. Meanwhile, in the ethereal plane, the other adventurers linger a few minutes, watching with detached resignation as their mortal remains are ingested by this creature and sort of digested and then duplicated somehow. The spirit of the gnome Nornhara is there with them for a little while, and then he just fades from view, and they wander out to see that he is now sitting up, out in the sunshine, back in his physical form, raised from the dead. But they can't linger. Each of them feels some sort of a pull to go deeper into the misty ethereal plane, which, even though their last moments were very traumatic, is way more compelling than standing around watching the material plane anymore. It's misty and kind of boring. At this point, they have slipped into the deep ethereal plane and are travelling to the fugue plane, where they are judged by the god Kalimvor and sent on their merry way, parting company with each other. Meanwhile, weeks have passed back on the material plane. Nornhara and Seska have returned to Waterdeep, both somewhat obsessed with finding out some way to restore their companions back to life. There is no way that they can clear the old keep by themselves, and nobody is going to go with them if word gets out that 2 of their best friends, including the folk hero Valorius, died there. But on consultation with the local priests of Tempus, engaged in a fundraising public wrestling match, they inform the two that trying to bring Mal Valorius back from the dead would be pointless, because Mal was well known to them as a devout follower of Tempus, and if he indeed did die in glorious battle, there is no way he was not with their god now, and therefore no way he would want to come back to the mortal world without a very good reason. The priests would not even attempt it without a damn good reason as well. So the 2 companions gave up on that idea and instead seek out the Plinth, the undenominational temple open to all faiths, looking for advice on resurrecting their friend Tolmus, the arcane investigator. The soul of Tolmus, in the meantime, has travelled beyond the fugue plane and across the rainbow mists and swirling colour pools of the astral plane. Under the ever-watchful eye of a wandering astral dreadnought, he plunged down into the radiance to emerge in the fabled realm of Buxenus, the second layer of Arcadia, where he found himself now in the form of a lantern, glowing warmly as he flew across the orderly plains dotted with mountains, hills, lakes, and streams, all arranged in an orderly fashion, with camps of soldiers occupying large areas, though none seemed interested in bothering him as he flew past. And then, through some huge hidden doors that opened up at his approach, In the side of a mountain, he flew into a vast descending stairway that led down to a series of shining chambers, each one filled with stupendous, amazing marvels, each more incredible than the last. His mind bursting with questions and wonder, the world beyond, his old life a dim and dreary shadow compared to this, the domain of his god, Azuth. It would be, from his perspective, several years later, while he was deep in his study of a series of amazing and precious wax scrolls created by one of the oldest conclaves of Flumphs and two ancient wise Myconid sovereigns, on the lost time of Erathis Ascendant and the great alignment of the upper planes and the mysteries, that he was distracted by this familiar voice, calling to him through a great distance. He recognized it. It was Seska. He remembered her now. She was there on the day that he died, and now it seemed she was calling him back. But they're like a smoky portal in the same colour as the astral pool that led back to the prime-material plane, swirling around just beyond him on the floor, back to the world of Toril. Tolmus, his body the glowing ball of light transformed into a lantern when he became a petitioner of the outer planes, exactly like the souls of evil beings become the larvae of the lower planes, was too deeply involved in his studies, and besides, this priceless knowledge needed to be studied so his findings could be passed on to the other Archons, who were trying to do something about the rallying armies of Harmonium soldiers on the plains of Borxenus, disrupting Arcadia, and so he refused the call, which eventually faded away and ended. Back on the material plane, nursing some vicious wounds and watching in dismay as the powerful priests looked up at her and just shook their heads, Seska blew out a sigh and gave a dark look at the effigies of the gods arranged around her on the walls of the plinth temple. But her heart softened, and she realized, despite all the effort to bring back a part of Thomas at great personal risk, and despite losing a huge amount of money and her contract with the Waterdavian noble, that at least Thomas was definitely at peace. He had gone on to a better place, the priest said, and Seska nodded, thanked them and turned to leave. Then, thinking better on it, she paused before every statue in the temple to pay her respects to the gods. In the next few videos, I'm going to talk about the fate of the faithful of the outer planes and the way that the powers create the focal points of the various alignments and faiths. I'm going to go on to talk about the order of the evolution of the Archons and the angels and the other celestial beings, and give a much greater understanding of the power of law and the forces of good in the D&D multiverse, because I get asked that an awful lot by people. Why are there so many evil things in the D&D universe? Well, it's so you can fight them as a mortal being. But believe me, the powers of law and good have got a lid on it. As you can see, players choosing to resurrect their characters is a much different situation to merely raising them from the dead, and for the good and faithful worshippers of the gods of the upper realms, there's very little incentive for them to literally leave their heaven and return to the mortal world. It's up to the players to choose, of course. But as a dungeon master, you are free to have non-player characters under your control simply refuse to come back to life. If it were me, I would wear a do not res bracelet all the time, just in case, and I would be a regular devout attendee of the religious services wearing my little silver scroll on a chain as the holy symbol of Ogma, the god of knowledge, obviously. Anyway, just a little introduction in the form of a story to give a better perspective on the D&D afterlife. Please give me a load of questions down in the comments section down below on specific things that you want to know about particular gods, particular realms, how the petitioners work, how they're different from native outsiders, and the native realms of native beings from the celestial realms. Everything you want to know, just let me know in a big wall of questions, and I'll get through them as best I can. As well as, of course, continuing on with the series on dwarves and updating some of my older videos. Updating the angels videos is, of course, first on my list. So these videos will be replacing the one old video which covers all three different types of angels in the monster manual. So I'm going to be having several videos which go into great depth of detail on the divas and the planetars and the solars, etc. Please hit the like button if you made it this far, subscribe if you like what I do, check out my Patreon for some exclusive content and all the full scripts on these videos, buy some merchandise, wear your geek with pride, and as always, thanks for listening, and I'll be back with more for you very soon.